As our participants join us and our speakers are here, we start with the chant of Om Triambakam Yajamahe, Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam, Urvarukmiva Bandhanan, Mrityur Mokshe Mamratat, a simple Bronze Age chant that started the agricultural revolution. Speak, spread idea for immortality, just like a gourd, a gherkin spreads its seeds. Dear students, teachers, principals, guest speakers, and representatives from industry and academia, I welcome all of you to the first STEM Works for School Conclave, a gathering of excellent minds building our future. This event is the first of city, regional, national events, initiatives of India STEM Foundation. The conclave is a principal-led initiative appraising key stakeholders about STEM and how they are shaping the emerging initiatives. Starting with a virtual conference today, physical conference will be organized in synergy with World Robot Olympiad National Calendar. Details will be shared in the description. Today's event is an India STEM Foundation, World Robot Olympiad, and National Council for Science Museums collaborative project, partners in science, technology, engineering, maths, and art streams. We are celebrating STEM education and leading role principals play in actualizing the National Education Policy 2020. In partnership with National Council for Science Museums, we welcome all of you to engage and experience life learning and lexicon of change today. Through our activities, we seek to address the needs of our constituents, 30 crore students in India who are studying across 1,100,000 schools. We have great minds at our schools. From them have emerged CEOs of the world, socio-political leaders of the world. We want to have the next Nobel laureates and innovators for the world, and we are working with our network of principals and teachers to provide premium experiential learning. We want each classroom to be a STEM lab where students learn different aspects. Our school students this year won World Robot Olympiad, competing with over 100 countries. They created a spoon, programmed a spoon for Parkinson's affected patients. The spoon remained static even if the hand shook. These are the innovations we are looking for the world. We are the only country in this world to have Mangalyaan Mars vehicle on its highest denomination currency, and we want our students to have access to realize their dreams beyond blue skies. STEM is a way of thinking, and today's speakers, today's lineup is very special. They will detail more on that, but I want to take this moment to encourage the speakers to use gender agnostic language while conveying ideas and guide all inclusively to act. We have institutes from Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Bhopal, Bangalore, Patna, Ahmedabad who are connecting with us and supporting us in World Robot Olympiad. Ours is a constitution which states that it is the fundamental duty of all citizens to have a scientific temperament, and this freedom is required to explore beyond what we already know. To speak more on the subject, let me invite Mr. Sudhanshu Sharma, founder and CEO of Foundation, national organizer of World Robot Olympiad in India, to share his thoughts on making STEM education accessible for all. Please put your hands together for Mr. Sudhanshu Sharma, who will be speaking on the topic now. Sudhanshu ji, the webinar is yours.
Thank you, Bhuvan. Thank you for a wonderful and enthusiastic, energetic start. And I convey my sincere thanks to all the panelists who have taken out time to be here. Some are from international timelines across very early for you guys in the US, especially, and all the participants who have joined. This is Friday evening, and after hectic time in school, they must have reached home. But thank you very much for being here. I will now quickly talk about my presentation is here for all of you. So, what is the need for STEM education? It's something that I wanted to talk about in this today's world. So it goes back in 2005 and 6. Me and Apur, who is also one of the speakers today, we used to talk very closely. We are good friends. So, we say, oh, what are the challenges in your industry? He says, I am hiring engineers, but I take them 1 year to make them engineers. I was importing automation systems from Japan, Korea, Switzerland, and we had the same challenge. The engineers who we were hiring, they were not up to the mark. They did not have the confidence. But the people who were coming from ITIs or from diploma holders, these guys were very brilliant but could not speak English, or they were not very smart to climb up the corporate ladder. So these things triggered the thought process, and both of us decided to do something about it. And that is what happened. During our independent travels, I was in Japan, he was in US. We saw this wonderful program for school students called World Robot Olympiad, and we thought that we should launch it in India. So 2006 was the informal launch of our journey into the STEM world. Nobody knew that there will be India STEM Foundation that time, or we will be hosting a webinar today with all of you. And he took out time from his busy schedule. I also found time, and we launched in 2006 with 19 teams in a basement in a school. And somehow we found 19 teams in Delhi to launch. That is history. And today, World Robot Olympiad is India's largest robotics program, where we have in 2016 ended up hosting the international program in India. And with the support of NCSM, who funded us to host an international program in India for more than 10 crores they paid for the program. It was a great impact where we could reach out to a lot of people. 2012 saw the formal formation of India STEM Foundation, and this is where we started to realize that in order to do something more than what we were doing, we needed a formal structure, a vehicle where all stakeholders could come together. Government, there could be corporates, parents, schools, students, everybody need to come together to make a formal. We also identified the key areas that needed our formal intervention, which was, first of all, was capacity building. There was no capacity, there was no infrastructure in schools. What would school do if there is no kit, or there is no lab, there is no educator who now learns how to, who knows how to use those programs. There was WRO, but it was very small that time. And we needed celebrations of STEM programs where we could generate the pull. People should come and see what is happening. Behind closed doors, nobody knows what is happening. And student engagement beyond high school. What happens? What do they do with STEM? What if they take a STEM career? What happens? So these thoughts in mind, India STEM Foundation got formed. And today, so we built these programs to answer the points that India STEM Foundation's 4 pillars were: the infrastructure, educator empowerment, the programs to STEM programs to bring them in one place, and of course the students beyond high school. The Robo Shiksha Kendra was launched as a dedicated STEM tinkering lab to be set up in school. So the beauty of our programs is that we don't, for the setting up these STEM tinkering labs, we reached out to corporate donors to ask for their CSR grants. So these programs, we have done more than 20 crores of grants we have raised, and we have set up a lot of schools. Presently, we are running 80 active schools where we have set up complete infrastructure, the labs, and we have provided STEM facilitator who is an engineer and who goes there every day to conduct the classes. The program ends with a sustainable model where we empower the educators in the school to continue after the exit of the donor partner or India STEM Foundation, so they can carry on the program. So they are given the actual training and the course and curriculum. The other part which we decided was the skill development program for the educator, as well as for the students who can be made industry ready. So Anushikshan was created to do that. World Robot Olympiad is a program where we can pull a lot of parents and students and showcase to them their achievements, and they can also learn from others' achievements when they see other students also bringing their knowledge and their creativity in one place. And of course, internships we have with India STEM Foundation for evangelizing STEM education for high school students. So they can get involved, they can learn how to raise money, how to communicate, how to make presentations, which make them actually ready for the world beyond education. So these are some of the pictures from the lab that we set up. So as I mentioned that these are fully funded labs, schools don't pay anything for it. We go around and we have a team who goes and raises money for these programs. And this is to actually provide the infrastructure to schools who have no means to get it. And they don't have either the money or the even the awareness that there's something like that could happen in their school or around them. Government has done a great job in launching the Atal Innovation Mission, but they could only reach to 10,000 schools. That's a great number to start. But of course, more than what India STEM is doing. But there are still a lot of other schools who have no idea, no access to such programs. This and the World Robot Olympiad I mentioned. So every year they come out with a theme-based program. This year the theme is connecting the world, and this is more than 90 countries in this program this year. And we are going to host the national in September. In order for schools to join, we have created a timeline where we will be launching the program. Already on 15 January, we launched it. And we've introduced the National Entrance Test, which is an online test. The challenge is that schools and students find it, the cost could be a deterrent, or, there is no awareness of it. So if they pass the National Entrance Test, they don't have to pay any more money to participate in the remaining level. They can continue till the international level without paying any more registration fee. In the international, they have to pay, but till national, they don't have to pay anything. So National Entrance Test level 2 is a virtual level. Then there's a regional competition and national competition. This is something that we are doing so that we can make it accessible to all the schools and all the students. We also partnered again this year. NCSM has extended their support to us. Thank you very much. And we are going to them to have their innovation hubs spread across India and the science centers spread across India to provide schools to have access to WRO and awareness and teachers training programs with them. These are some of our programs. Most of them are free of cost for educators. They can register with Shruti, this email ID, and she can send you this plan. A lot of teachers and educators can join these programs and build their capacity. They also get certificates for joining these programs. These are some of our government affiliations. We have signed an SOI with Niti Aayog for supporting the STEM Atal Tinkering Labs mission. We are working with CBSE and all the other leading institutions, AICTE, Niti Aayog. These are some of our private partners who are donating and funding our Roboshiksha Kendra spread across India. And the list is growing. One slide cannot take it all. So we hope that we will be able to reach out to more number of schools and provide the benefit to more number of students in time to come. Thank you very much. This is India STEM Foundation's desire so that every student in this country should have access to STEM education, because each one of them is a potential leader. We just need to nurture and give them the right set of opportunities. But anyway, who am I to tell this to educators who are doing it day and day night? So thank you very much that we are able to contribute a little bit with all of your help. Over to you, Bhavan.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, Sudhanshu, for sharing your insights with us and showing us the journey of the past 18 years, how the Lego Man of India, as you are fondly known, has transformed the landscape of STEM education in India. All right, friends, moving to the next segment of our webinar today. Friends, learning in museums facilitates deeper conceptual learning and understanding by enhancing students' sensory literacy. Just like in our understand the value of tools, artifacts, measures, respect diversity of cultures, and so on. Today, we have someone very special for you, Dr. Raj Mehrotra, Senior Curator, National Science Center, who is now going to talk about proliferating STEM education for schools through innovation hubs. Dr. Raj Mehrotra, the webinar is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Very good evening to all of you. I am Dr. Mehrotra, a curator in National Science Center, Delhi, and it is a unit of NCSM, National Council of Science Museums, wherein we have 26 science centers spread all across the length and breadth of the country. And the foremost objective is to propagate the message of science, to propagate the awareness of science to the masses and the students in particular. So I will be sharing a just 4-minute presentation before you. So I request your patient listening, please. Yeah, thank you. My topic is how we are proliferating the STEM education for schools through our innovation hubs. That according to National Science Foundation, it is estimated that 80% of the jobs created in the next decade will require some form of maths and or science skills. And India's young workforce must be aptly ready for this eventuality. India contributes to around 31.7% of total STEM graduates in the world and has one of the world's largest STEM job markets. The country is also the third largest unicorn hub, is steadily scaling the global innovation index. The scope of STEM education in India is massive, with the NEP new education policy also recognizing the need for a system that encourages critical thinking, hands-on working and creativity. So STEM education is poised to be the next major revolution in the India education ecosystem. So some of the areas there which are covered under STEM are medicine, surgery, dentistry, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, the natural, physical and life sciences, computer, electronics and technology related disciplines, all types of engineering, mathematics, or any field involving heavy application of mathematical principles, psychology, anthropology, economics, architecture. So a wide array of subjects are there which are covered under the STEM fields. Glad to know that our Honorable Prime Minister had launched iSTEM, which is a national portal that enables and hosts different scientific programs and activities. So it's a very big platform where the researchers and resources are linked together, and a great exchange of ideas could take place over this platform. India Space Research Organizations are also organizing special programs for children called Young Scientists Program. It is called Yuvika. It is there to impart basic knowledge on space technology, space science, and space application to the young generation, and a special preference to the rural areas. The program is aimed at creating awareness about the emerging trends in science and technology amongst the youngsters who are the future of the building. They are the future building blocks of the nation. ISRO has chalked out this program to catch them young, to just catch them at a very early stage, so that they can be shaped as per desire. The program is expected to generate more students to pursue in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that is called a STEM, and STEM-based research career. Now, National Council of Science Museum is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Culture, Government of India. It was formed on April 4th, 1978. Today, it administers 26 science center, museums, planetariums spread all across the country. Science City, Kolkata, Birla Industrial and Technological Museum, Kolkata, Nehru Science Center, Mumbai, Vishvesariya Industrial and Technological Museum, Bangalore, and National Science Center, Delhi. They are our national level science centers. And all these national level science centers are having its regional science centers and district level science centers. They are known as satellite units. And in addition to development of science museums in the country, NCSM strives to communicate science and educate masses by its scientific galleries, mobile science exhibitions, lectures and demonstrations, training and workshops, publications, etc. NCSM has also sent exhibitions to the country like Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Russia, USA, Bhutan, China, Bangladesh, and so on and so forth. National Council of Science Museums and India STEM Foundation jointly organized Bird Robot Olympiad in India. Now, a special drive has been taken by National Council of Science Museums in the form of Innovation Hub. So we have a goal of setting up around 60 science and 60 innovation hubs all across the length and breadth of the country. Wherever we have a space in our science center, the innovation hubs are set up there, in addition to some other places where the hubs are created, with the separate space is created and the hub is installed there. So innovation hub is a place which provides facilities to nurture young ideas, to nurture new ideas, budding ideas, and help the students in particular to develop inquisitive perspective. The innovation hubs created by National Council of Science Museum engage youth in innovative and creative activities. These hubs, they serve as springboards for new ideas and innovation, and thus they help the society and economy to face future challenges and meet rising aspirations of the growing population. Specifically, embedding such creative pedagogies in science education through innovation hubs would have potential to retain massive talent in the modern science, which we have in the country, in this country. So basic objectives of these innovation hub is to engage our youth in creative hobbies and activities in STEM and biotechnology, to promote their critical thinking and practical problem solving skills, support their ideas to come to fructification, recognize and encourage and facilitate local innovation for sustainable development, and overall to inspire youth to make innovations, to create innovation. That is what we have seen during the period of COVID-19. Lot of indigenous innovative ideas came up and many big things happened in India. There, each innovation hub is divided into different sections. To name them, it is in front of your screen, the Hall of Fame. We are celebrating inventions, inventors and innovators. Then second section is Innovation Resource Center. Then third one is Technological Lab or Idea Lab. We can say Innovation Laboratory. Another section is Tod Ford Jod, where they break things and they remake it. In the process, they learned the entire process of assembly and disassembling a thing. Very important section is Kabar se Jugaad, build from scrap. How to use this raw, throwaway materials and use it to the benefit of the society. Then we have the Idea Box and a Design Studio. So these are the major 7 sections which we have in, these are the major components of our innovation or innovation hub. This is the design layout of this particular innovation hall. We have a very nicely built up science innovation lab, innovation hub in a National Science Center. I request all of you to please find some time and join us in our innovation hub and have a look on the different activities which we conduct throughout the course of year, exclusively for the school students. Some of the hands-on, minds-on activities and demonstrations are organized on regular basis for the school students. There are the topics on PCB design, sensors, microcontrollers, embedded systems, artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics, and then various scientific subjects like physics, chemistry, mathematics. Workshops, teachers training program are regularly organized in our innovation hubs on regular basis. These are some of the clippings, the media clippings which are covered during the course of our activities. And we regularly hold innovation fairs, and in the month of March, from 26 March to 28 March, we will be holding innovation fair in National Science Center. So these are different kinds of tool operation workshops in electronics, mechanical engineering, computer science and all. So this different workshops are conducted. Then some popular lectures, biotech lab, different program, and basic sciences, different programs are run throughout the year. So through these innovation hubs, we are organizing different programs and which are helping the students to propagate their creativity and learn more and more, particularly on this STEM areas. So they are fully covered here. All students are welcome, and I welcome you all for just having a look on our innovation hubs at National Science Center and different places all and across the country. Thank you so much for patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Raj, for sharing the wonderful work being done by NCSM, the innovation hubs, and for sharing with our audience the various opportunities and careers that will be built through the formative work that the innovation hubs are doing. And that edges me on to the next segment of our program. Please join your hands together to welcome Mr. Apurva Kalia to talk about the importance of STEM in corporate careers.
Thank you very much, Bhuvan. I will try my best to get us back on track on time. As Sudhanshu mentioned a little while earlier, a lot of the genesis of what we are talking about today took place many years ago, about 16, 17 years ago. I've spent my lifetime in a very busy corporate career, working on various different technologies throughout my career. And in fact, I'm trying to set up a different kind of a corporate career now. When Sudhanshu and Bhuvan told me that the topic of this conclave was STEM works for schools, my first reaction was it works for corporates too. And I'll hopefully talk about that in a minute. Now, we know that, we know the traditional view of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's a perfect balance. All these four dimensions come together to enable solving many of the world's problems today. Whether they are in engineering domain, whether they are in communication, in computers, it requires all these four dimensions coming together in a very good, very perfect balance to be able to solve these problems. But as Sudhanshu mentioned in his introduction, one of the things that I have felt for long in my corporate career is that people who actually come through the ranks, come through our education system, still lack some of the skills that are required to be successful in the corporate world. And when this conclave was being put together, I started thinking about STEM in a slightly different context. What does it really mean for people, for students, for children to acquire skills that would make them corporate ready, that would make them successful in the corporate world? And one of the challenges, I'm sure as educators, many of you would have seen, is that when we talk about STEM, a lot of students come and ask us this question that, I'm thinking of a career which is in law or in nursing or in hospitality. So what does STEM really mean for me? I mean, there's this connotation of science, technology, engineering, and math. It becomes a very technical sort of a thing. I'm not thinking of a technical career at all. So is STEM even relevant for me? And I claim absolutely it is. How? If we start looking at STEM in a slightly different context, I claim that STEM teaches corporate ready skills. We talked about, things like WRO or things like tinkering labs, right? What are these things? They are platforms which allow a group of students, a group of children to come together and solve a problem. Let's look at it just at that level. Let's not bring any science, technology, engineering, or math in this. They're coming together to solve a problem. The first thing that it teaches is structured problem solving, which is how to take a problem, any problem, and break it down into smaller chunks and solve it chunk by chunk. Right? This is the first skill that it teaches. So to me, this is a different connotation of the S. It's not just science, it's structured problem solving. All the examples that we've seen, all the examples that we've talked about, even Dr. Mehrotra talked about in his presentation, many of the examples that we are talking about are examples of problems which can be broken down to smaller chunks. So that's the first skill that children learn when they go through such programs. The second skill that children learn is teamwork. So this is my second T. Not technology per se, but teamwork. In my entire corporate career, spanning 35 years or so, I cannot think of one single project, not even one single project, which could be done by just one person. Every project in the corporate world requires a team to come together and requires a team to work across boundaries, require a team to work across people to get the task done. So my second dimension is T for teamwork. My third dimension is E for efficiency. In the corporate world, you need to learn to fail fast. If you're trying out something and it's not, or you have a chance that it's not going to work, try it out quickly. And if you have to fail, fail quickly so that you can move on to the next thing. right? So efficiency is something which is extremely important in the corporate world, and that is what these programs teach as well. You can talk to any of the students who have gone through programs like WRO, etc. They will tell you that from the inception of the program to the actual competition, they will have to go through at least 20 different iterations of their robot or whatever they're trying to do, right? So they learn to fail fast, and that increases the efficiency. And the final M for me is multitasking, right? There are 100 things that you need to do all at once, right? It's not a sequential process in the corporate world. You have to look at your project, you have to prepare reports, you have to talk to your teammates, you have to go to meetings, unfortunately, but you have to do all of these things together. So to me, when we talk about STEM and when we talk about STEM in the corporate world, I look at S for structured problem solving, T for teamwork, E for efficiency, and M for multitasking. And all the the traditional STEM kind of project that we've talked about in the past couple of presentations, they will all teach you these skills. So I claim that STEM teaches you corporate ready skills. If you really immerse yourself into it, you will come out much more corporate ready and much more employable than if you were to not experience these things.
All right. Thank you very much, Apurva ji, for sharing this beautiful presentation with us and giving the corporate perspective of what is required. We understand STEM careers encourage students to get postgraduate degrees. With this knowledge, the National Education Policy 2020 encourages students to explore before they decide on which career to pick. Well, our next topic of discussion, which you all have been eagerly waiting for, is being AI ready. Please put your hands together to invite Dr. Sarvjeet Herald, who will speak on the subject. Dr. Sarvjeet, the webinar is yours.
Thank you, Bhuvan. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarvjeet Herald, and I'm going to take you through being AI ready. Let me turn on a presentation. So from STEM, we have suddenly moved on to AI. Now, where is that connect and how AI is going to be relevant to, everyone, not just for the educators, not just for the institutions, and also for the kids. So first we need to understand. So my presentation is going to talk about what is AI, some real world applications, 21st century career opportunities. Dr. Mehrotra has already mentioned a lot of opportunities and why be AI ready is important. So, so the way the programming started, coding and AI is part of the national education policy also. So coding and AI is part of national education policy also. We do understand that India is a very diverse country, and a lot of schools in remote areas, are still looking at becoming digital literate, and they need the support of devices. But AI largely relies on the data. The way programming started in the beginning was all based on the rules. If, for example, so I've taken an example of Amazon to help you understand better that in the beginning you would have only able to add an item that this is, so let's say I want to buy soap, I want to buy oil, I want to buy one quantity, two quantity. But over the years this has changed, and using the data, because AI requires data in order to learn and in order to predict something. So, like all of the panelists here or all of the attendees, would have used Amazon, Flipkart at some point of their life and ordered something. What would they do is they would, group together a certain class of people and would be able to predict that you might also need, something more, something beyond. You might also want to add shampoo to your cart, right? And they can go further with lots of transactions happening. They can go further and tell you, right, so you bought the soap a month back, it must have been finished, now you want to reorder it, right? So technology plays a very, very important role in our lives. It's not something which is futuristic, it is something which is present today. So AI is not just a concept, AI is something which is happening today. And It refers to the simulation of human intelligence, the intelligence we had, and transferring that to the computers so that computers can think and, mimic like our mind, right? So we are not competing here to become machines. We are competing here to, think more, to do more. And that's where, STEM, which focuses on creativity, innovation, imagination, is really aligned with AI, right? So when we see in our schools, I've been to a lot of schools, we are still at the rule-based learning. We are still at, ordering an item, adding, deleting, subtracting, and that's how, the learning at schools are guiding students. You learn these concepts, you answer these concepts, okay, fine, you move on to the next grade. But where do they think? Is something which we should all ask, is that we should enable our kids to be thinkers of today and of tomorrow. So applications are a lot, when you book a cab, you use technology. If you have to find route for some to go to some place, you use technology. And even, when we are doing this conversation, you know I might not be facing the camera, but it is trying to correct my eye movement so that, I am looking there, and, we are able to maintain an eye contact, right? So technology is everywhere. Now, one of the most common questions, I've been asked is, not all students are going to become creators of technology. Absolutely. We cannot expect everyone to be creating the technology, but we can expect that almost everyone, is going to use that technology, right? So my next point, so I wanted to show a video, but however, we'll share it later on with you. So we need to understand technology is there. We need people, who also know how to use this technology effectively. And Google is a very good example. So, so Google is a very good example. Google goes to different websites, collects the data, puts it into database, and whenever we have any question, we ask Google. I've heard from a lot of students, a lot of teachers, we can go to Google and we can ask questions, right? However, what question would you ask? That is a question. So even though we have large amount of data with us, how would you use that data to benefit, right? I have skipped the last slide because, careers had already been discussed. But if we think, if we ask the right question to the Google, then we can expect to get the right answer, right? So asking the right question is very important. And we want our, not just the creators, but inquiry based learning. So one of the recent projects which I'd been involved with was, a lot of people were saying that, online learning is not effective, right? We should stop online learning and we should go back to the schools, right? And we did a study and we found out, yes, students were spending a lot of time online. However, if with each day 2.3 hours was being spent on learning and 2.7 hours every day was being spent on social media, right? Using various platforms. So what we found out, what kids understood was that, if we spend our time effectively, then we could have made online learning also a productive medium, right? So spending time online and utilizing it for the right thing is important. And that came out of the question which was floating everywhere, whether online education is good or not. So if we ask right questions, we find the right answers, and these students went on to tell everyone. So they are not just stuck to the previous careers we know, right? The careers we know that you can become a scientist, you can become an engineer, right? You can, but they're going to find their own careers, and they're going to find their own careers using data and using technology and using AI in order to create their own future. And this thing is, of course, our government has taken the initiative since last 3 years. AI is become, part of the curriculum, but we need to take it to each and every school in the country so that our kids, can do more than, creating a technology, but also using it effectively to solve problems, which Apurva mentioned, that it is a team effort, it is a collaborative effort, it requires efficiency. And when they're involved in learning technology like AI, they also understand about, putting things in the structure so that when you ask a question, you find the right answer and you are able to find the right career for yourself. So, and some of my students, some of our students. So what we understand is that AI is something which is present today, right? We need to move on from, focusing on marks to actually, changing our attitude to understand the concepts and subjects through projects, by inquiring, by asking questions. Why are we learning this? If I do it differently, how is it going to, affect? And because we are dealing with technology, we are dealing with AI, so there are a lot of ethical implications also. Whether something is right to pursue or something is not right. So these boundaries, ethical boundaries, we have to decide, and we need to move on from textbooks to, involve the society at large. And some of my students, they have, some of the RoboGenius students, they have, worked on research projects. So Brinda, for example, looked at, if you, because on internet we talk to strangers, we do transactions among strangers, we have not met face to face. How can you build the trust among strangers? So Vivan, for example, have looked on, how does technology, how does AI and mechanical engineering work together? And Dhruv did a research project on, improving the, making a smart medical intervention system. And these students are at some of these top institutions around the world. And, they are on a journey to create their own careers, to create their own paths. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvjeet Herald, for sharing this very important topic of being AI ready, with so much conversation happening around Chat GPT. Yes, asking the right questions does actually matter in the current scenario. To all our participants, no matter which stream you are from, languages, humanities, commerce, or sciences, AI is an enabler to amplify your imagination and outcomes of your endeavors. Yes, humanities and arts too. And to elaborate more on the subject and beyond, let me invite our keynote speaker, all the way from Tufts University School of Engineering, our very dear friend and an ardent STEM champion, Dr. Ethan Danhey. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Ethan Danhey. Dr. Ethan, the webinar is yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me here, and for first just even putting on this kind of event. I love that you're heading in this direction. And while I know virtual is not the ideal format, it does allow me now to join and share some of my ideas and thoughts. And I look forward to hopefully this being in person in the future. And our time is short, so maybe you'll even invite me there in the future to come share even more ideas that we have. But I wanted to touch on STEM education, STEAM education, and then that role of creativity and what that looks like in there. We've heard some of the ideas leading up to it, but I wanted to dive in a little bit more today. Just for context of where I am sitting right now, so I'm at Tufts University, which is in the northeast part of the United States, in a state called Massachusetts. We're just outside the city of Boston. As you may have heard of some of our peer institutions in this area, MIT, Harvard, there's a lot of great schools in the Boston area. And being here as an academic and as an educator, and even as a student, when I was a student, is a great place to really share ideas with others and learn from some of the best, which is very exciting. As was said, I sit within the School of Engineering. There, I coordinate a lot of our first-year courses. I teach some of our Intro to Engineering courses. And then I work within a group called the Center for Engineering, Education, and Outreach, where we actually look at education, do research on education, and think about educational technologies. And so I wanted to step back and think about education and think about perhaps where education has come from. This picture is from the United States, but I can imagine you as teachers or you as students can think of classrooms in India and thinking about the structure and setup of those classrooms. And if we were in person, I would ask you, what do you see in this picture? So I want you to just think for a moment, what do you see in this picture? And maybe you would say things like, I see a teacher up in the front of the room and the students all sitting in rows looking at that teacher. And if you think about the conversation that's happening in this classroom, what is happening right now? Probably the teacher is talking and the students are listening. Hopefully they're listening. But there's not a lot of student-to-student interaction, right? So the students' ideas themselves are not spreading throughout that classroom. They're just learning just from the teacher. And what we're looking for when we talk about innovation and creativity is the students' ideas themselves. And how do we get those out into the atmosphere and shared amongst students? So if this is the old classroom, I actually did a Google image search for classroom of the future. So I wanted to see, what is that picture of a classroom of the future? And this is the kind of thing that showed up. Now, I want you to reflect back on what we just talked about. Students sitting in rows, facing forward, a teacher in the front of the room. So I argue that the classroom of the future is not just bringing new technologies into the classroom, but actually we really need to restructure what classrooms look like and what that model of education looks like, where it's not just a teacher in the front of the room as the holder of the knowledge and talking at the students, but the teacher is the facilitator of that experience. And we want the students doing things. We want them actively engaged and coming up with their own ideas and being a participant in that classroom. And we've heard about museums, and we've heard about WRO, and we've heard about these other institutions and organizations that strive to sort of push that change in the educational model. And here in the Austin area, we work with local schools as well. And I have a picture of one of the classrooms that we went into. So now take this image and compare it to the ones that we just saw. And there's a few things you might notice. One is, actually, I don't even see the teacher. Right. So there's no teacher sitting in that front of the room. Actually, I think the reason is because the teacher took the picture, but still, you don't see that teacher being the center of attention. In fact, if I asked you where is the front of the room, you might not even be able to identify that, because they have shifted the tables around and they've gotten on the floor because the activity that they were doing required a change to the physical setup of that room. And yeah, it's not high tech, right? They're using craft materials and found materials to do an engineering activity, but you can see the engagement of the students, the excitement of the students. You can feel that innovation and creativity that the students themselves are putting into those projects. They're not just trying to memorize some facts. They're not trying to just repeat what that teacher has said. And so this kind of philosophy drives why we're doing what we're doing here. So these are some of the grand challenges from the National Academy of Engineers. As they look forward, these are the problems that the world are facing and the things that we need to be solving. And we're going to need the next generation to be ready to solve that. And yes, we need engineers and we need mathematicians and we need scientists. But as we heard a lot this morning, it's not just about solving them from a technological point of view, but we're going to need policymakers, we're going to need lawyers, we're going to need others in the workforce that understand and appreciate and can address these ideas from across a wide range of disciplines and perspectives. And so that leads to another thing that I've heard a lot. What was it? A STEM is a way of thinking, and all students need to have this scientific mindset. Those are two quotes that I heard earlier today. And that aligns very much with what our mission is at Tufts University within the Center for Engineering, Education, and Outreach. We want to create problem solvers of tomorrow, and we want to empower all students, not just the ones that will become future engineers, but we believe that STEM is for all, and that bringing that in will help our collective future as local societies, but as a global partnership amongst countries as well. So that's really, really important. And our goal is to do this through interventions, through technologies, through pedagogies, and doing it all through research-based engineering experiences. And I hope to show you some of the things that we do along that way. For me personally, I'm very interested in looking at educational technologies and thinking about not just the technology, but also the environment, as we talked about, and how that can support learning. Often when people think of educational technologies, they think about, oh, we need to give everyone a laptop or have a computer, or actually many people have mobile devices and technologies that aren't computers that are supporting that. But I also push you to think about technology in a much wider range where, and you'll see examples today of some of the Lego products, but Lego to me is a technology that can go into that classroom and really change the environment and change the atmosphere and change the type of lesson and activities that are happening in there, and can push students to that next level of thinking. So thinking more broadly about what technology is. And we've heard a lot about STEM and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so I won't dwell on this, but the idea is that I often see that applied to a very wide range of things. And I want to push on you when you think about STEM learning to really think about how each of those individual disciplines, which often happen in separate classes, in a great STEM activity can really actually come together. How can all of those ideas be happening simultaneously? How can you have a single activity that combines all of those topics together? And importantly, within a meaningful context, right? So we want to engage our students, or as a student, you want to be engaged. And so you want to be doing things that are meaningful to you. So not an idea that the teacher had, not a project that the teacher finds interesting, but what's an interesting project for the students? And how can a single project tap into each of these disciplines? And so I'm going to come back to that point in the future, but I wanted to introduce that now. So as I look at educational tools and technologies, I'm looking for something that's engaging, that can drive our students' learning in a self-directed way, that allows them to explore different solutions, that provides student choice. Iterative, that's an engineering concept to reimagine, to refine. And naturally, we've been led to some of the Lego products, right? So that allows students to have self-directed learning, to explore on their own. And we've worked a long time with Lego education, so you're going to see a lot of those types of ideas here. But they have products from really young all the way up. And in fact, here at the university, I use some of the Lego education products in my classrooms to actually teach, because I believe strongly in the opportunities that it introduces. That said, while I'm going to show a lot of technology and plastic and Lego products, a lot of these ideas can be implemented with all kinds of different tools and technologies that exhibit the same list of ideas and concepts. So sometimes people say, I don't get it. How can Lego, which is essentially a toy, be used in a classroom to actually teach? And so here's an example that I might do in a first grade classroom, right? So a six years old, let's say, I have 6-year-old students and I give them some Lego bricks and I say, build a wall. And what they might build is an example on the left there, where they just stack the bricks one on top of each other and build a wall. But from an engineering point of view, I might say, well, let's try to give it the flick test, right? So this is a test where we actually flick it with our finger. And what you'll find is that wall falls apart very easily. It is not structurally sound. So my 6-year-old is not using the words structurally sound or iterative design or structural engineering, but is starting to fundamentally start to understand these concepts. And through iteration, through play, they might come up with a new idea to them of how to build a wall, which is to offset bricks in the wall, which then allows it to survive that flick test and actually be more structurally sound. So that idea of the student directed through play, through experimentation, through exploration is actually coming to a deeper understanding of how this is. We're not lecturing, how do I build a wall out of Lego bricks? Hey, make sure you do it in this way. This is the right way and this is the wrong way. But we want the students to come to that understanding. That's that creativity and that's that innovation that sort of can be developed. So as I go a little bit older, let's say we're in 10 years old and we're starting to do different types of mathematics. I'm learning about division. I'm learning about ratios. Typically, we might hand them a sheet of math problems and say, what's 10 divided by 3? What's this? What's that? What's this? And instead, what I can imagine is let's actually physically build that mathematical equation, right? So if I use gears and gear ratios, and I ask a question like, if the gear on the left turns once, how many times does the gear on the right turn? You actually have to use mathematics in order to figure that out. And so the student can physically build an equation, can experiment, can tactilely feel the equation in action and start to understand inputs and outputs and ratios and the relationship between different values. And so this is now a physical embodiment of a mathematical concept. And math is hard because it's often very abstract and hard to wrap your head around, but here's a way to sort of turn that physically. And so, as I said, this could scan across all of the ages. And in fact, I do this in my own classroom as well. And on the top left is pre-pandemic, when when we were able to teach in one modality, and I've had to adjust and refigure out how to teach in the current ways. But I love using the Lego robotics platform, and in particular the Spike Prime, in my classroom to have my students do Lego robotics and to explore a whole variety of different types of projects. The first project I do of the semester really emphasizes this idea of self-expression, of creativity, of innovation. I call it the getting to know you, where I just want to know who's in my classroom, who are my students, who are they? I want them to learn to express their ideas and to put themselves out there. And so it's about them being artistic with the Lego bricks. And so here's some pieces from my students where they get to express what they're interested in and what they're after. And we can incorporate across engineering and, say, biology. And so we do a biomimicry activity where students learn about an animal, sketch it, learn about the structure function, and then actually replicate it using the Lego robotics. And so going through that whole arc of bio-inspired robotics, which we see in industry. So again, building those skills that they might come across as future engineers. I'm also very big onto this idea of human-centered design. How are we designing for others? How are we solving problems that people have out in the world? And I have a project using the Lego robots called Astronaut Tools, where we simulate what it's like to actually be up in space. So they have to wear big space gloves and which are just winter gloves, but big gloves, and have to simulate to move a nut from a bolt to a bolt and to build a tool to actually do that. And again, this is a simulation of what an engineering problem would be for in the classroom context, but it's a way to sort of inspire students to create things, to do it in different ways. And again, when they share amongst everyone in the classroom, they start to learn from each other. So it's not just about me telling them what the ideas are, but that peer-to-peer learning is so important in these contexts. And this one here is a spirograph drawing machine. And so here, again, they're learning about gears and gear ratios and how to actually physically build something, but in the context of making art and actually creating some individualized drawings that are specialized to them. And they learn about the inputs and outputs. As I change my robot, which is my input, how does my output, the drawing, actually change? And so I want to use that to then transition into this idea of expanding the idea of STEM to the idea of STEAM. Can we actually include this artistic expression into our learning activities themselves? How do we not just focus on the technical aspects, but focus on expanding those ideas and encouraging the students to be creative in their problem solvings? And I want to tap into a little deeper onto one of the activities that I gave. I actually do this one fairly quickly. So it's an in-class activity where they come in, I present the idea, and they have to solve it. My goal is to introduce gearing. So gearing, again, as we talked about with those mathematics, is kind of tricky. You have to think about the input gear and the output gear and the ratios and how that sort of works. But I want them to learn that within the context of actually building something. And so we build a top spinner. So they have to make a physical top and then build something that spins it up and sends it off. And here's an example of it, just of it sort of going. Some examples on the left of different gear ratios, and then I think this one on the top right there spins for about 50 seconds or something, which is amazing that the students are able to create that. But what I want to do is I want to tap back into something that I said earlier, and I want you to analyze this activity through that lens. Remember, I said it's about a single activity that combines all content topics together within a meaningful context. And so this is a super simple activity. Build a top, make a spinner, go forth and do it. And the students see that as just one little nugget of an activity. But from my point of view as an educator, I'm tapping into so many different disciplines simultaneously. Right? So I'm taking pieces from their science class and they're learning about friction and velocity and momentum. I'm taking the pieces from technology class as we do programming and computer science. We're doing the robotics design. They're evaluating, they're iterating, they're brainstorming, they're doing all those pieces. And of course, the mathematics as they start to understand the gear ratios and how do I make a more efficient top spinner by having something that has a higher gear ratio. And all of that is within a meaningful context. They're super inspired to make these top spinners, right? They're excited to do it because there's a bit of competition. There's a bit of what did you make? What did I make? There's that self-expression. It's a fun toy that they've now created by the end of the class session. And so you can see how we don't need to separate all of the disciplines and have separate time for each, but we can bring those all together and to do activities that enable students to be creative and innovative and still touch on all of those core concepts that we as educators are sort of responsible for teaching to our students. Whew. So I went fast, I covered a lot, but I want to thank you so much for this opportunity and a chance to sort of share some of the ideas, philosophies, some of the things that we've done with young kids, and then showing that high ceiling that's possible in education. There's lots more work that we do, and I encourage us to continue this conversation. And I thank you again for this opportunity to come and present. Thanks.
Excellent. Dr. Ethan, thank you very much for sharing the examples of gears and levers and outcomes of these activities that you shared. Really helped me understand better how STEM and STEAM integrated learning makes sense in this very busy ecosystem of learning, and of course, making the child center of learning, maximum learning with minimal supervision. Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for elaborating on various activities that you are undertaking. All right, friends, as you are aware, at India STEM Foundation and its network of schools, we allow our students to experiment and fail, but not let them fail. This is an initiative of our principals. It's time for all of you to welcome our power-packed panel of principals. Our principals help students and parents understand STEM and STEAM through their insights, commenting on the challenges and opportunities. Since this is a moderated session, all the questions will be taken at the close of the event. I would invite all the participants to type down their questions respective to the principals they want the questions to be answered by. To our principals, I would request you answer each of the questions we have listed for them. These questions are from our audience and of course the topics our principals want to address. I will keep this conversation interactive as much as possible, and I'm very eager to hear from our principals. We will begin Miss Una Roy Chaudhary, Principal, Alpine Convent School, Gurugram.
Thank you so much, Bhuvan, and good evening and namaskar to everybody.
All right, so straight into our viewers' questions to you, Ms. Una Roy Chaudhary. Can you share with us some of the challenges that STEM education faces in India from the point of view of an academician, an administrator, and an educating leader?
Okay, thank you so much for getting me in panel. Yes, this is a very relevant question, Bhuvan, because especially in India, the syllabus, the boards we follow, the central boards I'll be talking about, CBSE, ICSE, and even the state boards, we have a curriculum. We have a defined curriculum to complete. We have a defined syllabus to complete. So in our timetable, we have to have the maths, the science, the English. We have to have all the subjects filled up. And then if we want to put the integrated learning, if you put it at STEAM education in that sense, where the time we can give is not what we should be giving. Now, actually, I think after NEP, after the implementation of the NEP, things will change. But still now, the way the technological advancement has happened, the syllabus change hasn't happened in the same way. So you are left with the same in all the subjects, but all the principles in all the schools. See, when you have a child who is in grade 3, so this is 2022, another 10 years, the child will be going in the college. That will be 2032. So how you are going to make that child future ready? You have to make the child future ready. You don't have a choice. But at the same time, if your school is under a board, you always have to complete the syllabus. So this is a real challenge. And another thing what Dr. Sudhanshu was mentioning, very, that is very pertinent, that, the resource, the cost. Yes, my school, I'm very privileged to be in a school where the cost is not the factor. And I'm so glad to know that, they are doing it for so many schools. But then also, after we implement in so many schools in India, just think about the country. Think about the length and breadth of the country. I think it's insufficient still now. But talent is not insufficient in India. Intelligent students, the number of intelligent students is also not insufficient. I really think that the way he was mentioning, the corporate and all other sectors, if they work hand in hand, and the more success will come. India being the country of youth, right now, this is the country of the young generation. So the more number of people we can reach, after another 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, they'll be there in the work. So these are the basic few limitations I could think about.
Absolutely. Ms. Una Roy Chaudhary, thank you for giving us the perspective, not just the time scale the students spend at school while learning, but also the length and breadth of the country where the national education policy is to be implemented through our principles. Thank you for sharing this perspective with us. All right, to our next question to you, Ms. Roy Chaudhary. Our viewers, our participants are very eager to know what are some of the opportunities emerging from the STEM education in India for students, teachers, and parents.
So how can you say some of the opportunities? All the opportunities will be there. You cannot avoid technology anymore. You just cannot avoid technology anymore. You cannot avoid science. You cannot avoid technology. There are only opportunities. Same, that is technology, science, integrated in the day-to-day classroom situation will bring a massive change. All sectors, wherever you go, it doesn't matter which sector you are going. Without a proper STEM education, without being proper literate in the technological sector, only with bookish knowledge and theory knowledge, it's almost impossible to succeed. Yes, you can, your mark sheet, only your academic results, that can take you till the door of an interview. After that, what they were mentioning, when they go to the workforce, then they are not job ready at all. Then they are not job ready at all till the time they don't have hands on. You think about anything, you think about any situation today, think about the sustainability, the blooming sector, think about waste, think about the waste management. Whether how the waste is created right now is not, it doesn't matter, but how can you do that? Can it be only done by creating awareness? No, we need the help of technology. So you can think of any field, Bhuvan. There is no end to it. Any industry, any area the children want to go, or any industry they want to create, there will be people who will be creating industries. Then also they cannot get away from it.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Madam Roy Chaudhary, Principal Roy Chaudhary, for such elaborate responses to our participants, our viewers' questions. Okay, moving on to our next principal, all the way from Hyderabad, Dr. Sneha Nalla, Director of Nalla Malla Reddy Foundation School. Madam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good evening to all of you.
Excellent. So, ma'am, diving straight into our questions, our viewers are very curious to hear from you. How should we create, how should schools create an interest in students towards STEM education?
So to start with STEM education, as we start with education first. So in the school, we start with the basics of the language, like the programs which we follow right from teaching them A, B, C. The same how we start even in STEM education, we have to start right from the basics, like the basic soldering, basic carpentry, or basic welding. So along with this, introducing them towards the resistors or all these electronic equipment. And then going on to the next level is the robotics or the 3D printing and the other part, laser engravers and all these things.
All right. So, viewers, there are several aspects that you need to learn from software to hardware, as Madam Sneha, Dr. Sneha elaborated. Okay, to our next question to you, Dr. Sneha, what should be the requirement of any school for cultivating technological awareness to move towards the goal of STEM education?
For STEM education, first of all, what is needed is to imbibe an interest towards science. So the science, to grow the interest in science, first it has to be started with how it is being presented. So presented to through the laboratories, and then for the present day, as it is shown about the old classroom or the new classroom in the previous by the previous speakers. So the same how as science has to be presented in a better way, and practically it has to be shown. And the Mindstorms, which is the best way, Lego Mindstorms is the best way how we can show the models even. And also a few videos which are played so that they grow interest in science first. And then coming to the next part is about technology. So technology is through the basics of coding. There are many websites like the coding.com or so. So wherein they learn. Whereas coming to Mindstorms, it gives that also. The edge also is given through that. And then engineering. So to put this science and technology together. So this is what is the engineering concept. And then the mathematics, what we are talking about is the precision which is taught. So to grow the interest, first it has to be taught in how it has to be understood by the student first. So it is definitely possible with a better device, like, so as it is displayed, that's right. I feel it is a safe device also for them to learn better.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for elaborating on what all students can learn from and how they can implement, and the safety aspect as well of what they are using. Thank you for sharing, which kits students can use. All right, to our next question from you, Dr. Sneha. Our viewers are very eager to know from you, how does STEM education help in improved performance of students in their overall development?
Yes, overall development is to start with the students' overall development is dependent on their innovative skills. So imbibing an interest in the concept of innovation is much important. So for that, we start with, as it was been talked about, so many things introduced to the students so that they know the concepts and then they can practice them properly. So they know the coding, for example, and then they can practice it and keep this in practice through an engineering model or whatever it is. And then as well as this is how, when a student innovates something, they are very confident. This is how we make the leaders of tomorrow. So this is how it also improves their leadership qualities. Confidence which we give to the student to make the best out of. And I like the concept of STEM to the art adding to it. STEM to STEAM. Yes, right.
Fantastic. So learning by doing is the mantra, viewers. Okay, so moving on to our next principal, all the way from Goa. Please put your hands together to welcome Miss Selena D. Souza from Spring Valley High School, Goa. So diving straight into our viewers' questions for you. Our viewers are very interested in knowing from you, learning from you. With the new education policy 2020, how will STEM be part of the curriculum?
Yes, the new education policy is a very promising policy, much needed change in the education system. And definitely the curriculum is imbibed with STEM included in it. As you all know, the Education Policy 2020 is having the stages where it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And STEM can be directly included in the curriculum right at plus 4 stage, which includes classes of 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, where students will be exposed to all the kinds of subjects that they want to opt for. As of now, we are restricted to 6 subjects, but at the grade 9 to 12, there will no longer be streams of arts, commerce, science. And so 9th to 12th will be high school, and they will be given an option to select the subject of their choice, whether you have it in your institution or they have to go into the cluster institution. And so in this way, the students will be given a wide opportunity to progress. They opt for the kind of subject they are interested from a very young age. And as they pass out from high school, yeah, so I don't think there will be any difficulty with STEM introduced with the new education policy. It is going to be enforced in full form.
Fantastic. Thank you, Principal D'Souza, for sharing this insight into the National Education Policy 2020 and the curriculum. Viewers, I hope you are taking notes. This is very critical insight for all of you. All right, to our next question. Our viewers are very interested in knowing from you, how will the introduction of STEM benefit students at high school level?
Yeah, as I just said, see, teaching is an art. So there will be teachers in school. All the teachers have to get capacity built with the new modern technologies. As Dr. Ethan has just explained, the difference between the traditional classroom and the modern classroom. So practically every teacher has to be equipped with modern technology first and foremost, in order to be able to carry out STEM in the school. You know, there will no longer be a teacher in front of the blackboard or the whiteboard. The teacher will just be a facilitator. The students will be just engaged. There will be a lot of critical thinking. The numeracy skills, the language literacy skills will be given more importance under the NEP. And in this way, yes, the students will definitely progress. And by the time they pass out from high school, they are already focused onto what stream they want to get onto which profession they want to get into. So as Apurva, Kalia has said, it's like the corporate. So schools also will have to develop that kind of a spirit of team building, having good strategies, and everyone works as a team. The management, the teachers, the students, and the parents' involvement. So a school will no longer be just concentrating on exams and completing portions, as one of my colleagues said. There will be also a corporate setting in the school setting itself. So it's actually, I'm looking forward to implement this NEP as soon as possible. It's a quite challenging task, no doubt, in schools, especially in Goa. But yes, challenges are part of life. And definitely, as we move on with life, we have to move on as educators to give the best opportunities to the students. And I believe nothing is impossible.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Madam D'Souza, for sharing your learning from the system, about the system with our participant viewers. To our last and final question to you, can you tell us how, as educators, can we contribute towards this change?
Yes, as educators, we have to upgrade ourselves first. I think we have to start preparing ourselves using STEM. We have to be upgraded with our technologies. Like if you ask me, I'm not very computer savvy. I always have to depend on someone to guide me with the skills. But the pandemic was a blessing in disguise. And we all teachers learned how to prepare videos and how to teach through online modes. And every time we prepared a lesson, it was more innovative. And so like this, with the NEP, we need to upgrade our skills. So every teacher, every educator will not be able to stand still. We all have to upgrade, whether it's the head teacher or the teacher who teaches the kindergarten class, that is the age of 3 students, will all have to upgrade their skills time and again if we are going to be abreast with the modern system. So yes, we have to support it and we have to learn along with the students. Only then our country will progress.
Absolutely. Principal D'Souza, thank you for putting it so succinctly and so beautifully by saying, be the change you want to see. All right, that moves me on to my next panelist. Please put your hands together to welcome Ms. Anupama Mehra, Principal, NCS Goa, Navy School Goa. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening, everybody. Neighbors of the Goa International Airport, smack bang on Airport Road from Goa. I come all the way from the land of the sun, beach and sand. Firm believer of Edward de Bono's simplicity. I love the way each speaker here put across their ideas so simply, and firm believer of the same myself that, complexity creates confusion and simplicity focus. I took away a lot of that from each speaker who tried to unravel the mystery of STEM education. Thank you for being, allowing me to be a panelist, and I'm ready for whatever viewer questions that you would have for me.
All right, then. So straight into our viewers' questions. Our viewers are very interested in knowing, how do you think schools can prepare to encourage the teaching staff members to orient themselves towards implementation of STEM education, and what kind of professional development can teachers undergo?
Ma'am D'Souza just spoke about NEP. Taking a leaf out of her talk, the roadmap is there. We are talking about critical thinking. We are talking about interactive classes. We are talking about experiential. This is already there in place. So starting from whatever we have and wherever we are, we can just start taking it on from there. Simple problems, and the way Apurva unraveled the entire complete definition of STEM, very basic tasks can be done in a in the classroom to get in that temper, that thinking and orientation. I'll just share of very few things that we do in school, and it's a live example of how we do it. Teachers definitely need the empowerment, because technology, as said by one of my colleagues, we need to be doing it ourselves. We need to learn to work as teams first, for example, or we need to collaborate and get the whole collaborative atmosphere in school, or the theory of constructivism. We need to work on it as mentors ourselves. Are we doing it, or working in islands? A very small thing. We need to encourage a simple thing like group seating in class. A very simple, move away from the assembly line of desks and chairs. There was a very poignant picture by one of our speakers here of a teacher-centric classroom. And then, very basic here. So teachers have to adapt to that change. Management have to adapt to that change. The mentoring and the teacher training will come. We are already there. We are having so many coding. We are having so many teacher training workshops on technology. We are collaborating with Microsoft for Google certified trainers. We are using all the apps possible, right? So we are getting there, but it's the basics that really matter. If a child comes up and tells you, I want to understand how the Sahayikas are throwing away waste, or are we segregating waste, or how much tea, coffee, and tea leaves is being used by the tea club, or how big is my football ground? There you have it. You are problem solving. You're asking questions. You're already orienting the little generation towards these everyday activities of the class. Dr. Ethan's activity reminded me of a Beyblade, like a top spinner, like our kids play with, right? So imagine getting art here or making simple installations. The moment a child wants to move away from a specific classroom setup, do we teachers encourage it? Do we want change? Or are we going, I understand it's a curriculum based, syllabus defined, but can we break the mold? And it comes like a top-down approach. Are we ready to take risks? So my first earnest request to every teacher out there is break your own mindset, your own mold. Every principal needs to do that. I think that's where we need to stop. Workshops to ho rahe hain bahut. So many workshops are happening. It's here first. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for such a powerful and such a relevant response, and also bringing up the issue of the curriculum, which is the point of my next question to you also. What are some of the changes that can be made in the curriculum flow to accommodate STEM education? Please, if you could spend some time on this subject and share your insight with our viewers.
I feel the subject basket that we are opening up in class 11 should be done in class 8. It should be done earlier because children do start orienting, and we have seen, like we do it in our schools, we let the child spend a lot of time on what they love to do. There are no barriers. Of course, there is a timetable, otherwise the whole school schedule will go berserk. So there is, let that happen. Let there be lesser boundaries for children to confine themselves with. So if we have a child going in for sports, for example, let us handhold the child and rise above the curriculum. Let the curriculum be there. There is an excellent curriculum in place. CBSE is doing a fantastic job in skilling. There are skill hubs, there is hybrid learning, there is art integrated projects. The roadmap is there. How are we implementing it? So let the subject boundaries be there. Let the syllabus boundary be there. It's the method of implementation is what needs a change, right? And syllabus does get covered. In fact, there are reduction in curriculum section in NEP, which beautifully talks about teaching the core essentials. Let's keep it and define it as good to teach, must to teach, getting the core concept so that the child is successful in the long run, and then breaking down barriers. I think that will help. I'm not against a curriculum implementation. It is there thanks to the education think tanks, and it's beautifully done. It's the implementation and the freedom for every educator to be able to implement it and the flow of it. Yes.
To our next question, our viewers are curious to know, in a country that focuses so much on syllabus completion, does STEM education stand a chance? You've already hinted on it, but please, if you can elaborate a little more on that and answer our viewers' question, please.
If we look at what our speakers said, STEM education is not a separate subject. It is an integration and application of all the activities that we are already doing. The roadmap is there. It's just the incorporation. The syllabus does go along, and in the process, you are teaching our children so many other things, whether it's art or whether it is music or whether it is the tinkering labs which are in place, or whether it is the various exhibitions and science exhibitions and art exhibitions that school do. It's just defining it down and changing the pedagogy. So STEM education is happening. We tend to treat it as a separate subject or a separate entity. Just integrate everything and amalgamate everything, like very beautifully put by Dr. Ethan. There are these separate activities which are in the form of various subjects. Put them together as one project and you have STEM. So it's not a separate entity. It's all about integration. So we can finish syllabus to an extent, yes, until unless we are board bound, 10th exam board bound, and that also thanks to CUCT has lost its relevance in class 12th. My children question, why do I score? What is in it for me? And I honestly sometimes have this conversation with my class 12. You're actually right. So with that, we've already broken down the myth around the class 12th examination, right? So it's just 10th, and why should we treat 10th as just as a stepping stone to choose your stream? There is so much more that you can do. So let the curriculum be there. We just need to integrate ourselves beautifully and go along. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Principal Mehra, for simplifying such a complicated subject, how it can be implemented and how students can benefit from it and how they can start early on their own also. Even if the schools are not taking it up, the systems are simplified enough, accessible enough. Thank you so much for clarifying and demystifying a lot of these myths about STEM education for us. All right, so moving on to our next principal, all the way from northern state of Punjab, Principal Vinodita Sankhyan, Principal of Sri Ram Ashram School, Amritsar. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you and pleasure being here with all of you.
All right, then. Principal Dr. Vinodita Sankhyan, our audience is very curious to know from you, and it's a very typical question coming in from schools, how to convince management of schools and parents for STEM education.
See, in any setup, the pocket which funds the program is very important. And for any project, the pocket that is going to fund is either the parent or the management. And STEM, as all of us have been sharing here, is one that we would say is a forward-looking need of the hour kind of a project, which is basically retweaking the mindset of the people around, changing perspectives. And for that, we need to convince and we need to have on board both the managements on one side and the parents on one side. Supposing you have to have a STEM lab in school, supposing you need to hire a new trainer for STEM in school, or maybe you have a minor changes in the curriculum or whatever, you need to first take permissions from your management. And at some places, they need to provide for the infrastructure, they need to provide for the funding, and they need to provide for the means and ways by which it can be wholeheartedly handled. If there is a friction between the management and the principal or the faculty for implementing STEM, I don't think the project will work very smoothly. Then any project would not move ahead if the parent community is not there. They are very strong stakeholders in any school community. And because the parent in any school, any urban, semi-urban or rural areas, parents in India are the people who decide what the child does and how much time and where the child is going to invest the time. So it's very, very important that they need to be enlightened before the child needs to get enlightened. So we need to bring the parents on board. We've been doing STEM in our school. I think we've been associated with RoboGenius since 2015 now. And in between COVID happened, still a large number of my parents have been able to come on board for that. But it took us a lot of time in convincing them. Now they've come up to the stage when they look forward and when the results of implementing STEM education in school is visible to them. On the basis of STEM programs, now the children are getting placements in good and better colleges. Now the parents are convincing, and see, it goes by word of mouth. You call the parents for a parent orientation, you display the projects on the PT meets and things like that. Still, they take time to adopt to the new technology and adopt to a new perspective. NEP has come a long way. The government is talking a lot about it, but still it is a tall call.
Certainly, Principal Sankhyan, the entire STEM movement in India is a principle change, showcasing the change, difference, and convincing parents and management in taking interest in STEM education and implementing it through labs or other means that are available. All right, to our next question to you, Principal Sankhyan, can you tell us how do schools find trained staff and infrastructure needed for implementation of STEM education?
See, you've touched a very sensitive chord. We in Punjab are facing a huge challenge. We are not getting trained faculty.
thanks to RoboGenius, they would always fly down their faculty to Amritsar, and then we would host them in the school for 3 days. And that is the passion with the school was there, that yes, we have to do it. Otherwise, we really, I think in all rural, urban places, this is a huge challenge. Even if you train your own teachers, there is a limitation. The exposure is not all that much. It is always advisable and it is always desirable to have a trained faculty at the local level, because that way the hands-on training can be done in during holidays or maybe for longer hours, maybe on weekends, which with the numbers that we have, with the challenges that we have in India, that is the need of the hour, to devote more time into it so that the exposure is widespread. So trained faculty and training our own staff is a big challenge. I just hope that in the Center of Excellences that CBSE is building up, CBSE would take this also as one of the skills that need to be developed at the faculty level. Let's hope.
Certainly, Principal Sankyan. We are also working with powers that be to make sure that training in STEM, how to implement STEM through existing subjects, is imparted and the capacities are built through initiatives of principals like you and others. This moves me to the next question that our audience has from you. As a school leader, as an administrator, you have a very busy schedule as per syllabus. How do you adjust time to fit STEM education within this curriculum?
I think where there's a will, there's a way. You can always figure out how to do it. I personally, we've been doing that since quite a few years now. I don't think that is a challenge. As some of the speakers today, they've mentioned that with the advent of NEP, the CBSE as well as the government is going to rationalize the syllabus very soon, and they'll be sharing it with us. Otherwise also, we are supposed to give sports some time, we are supposed to give health education some time, and when you have your parents on board, I think that's a very important component of the entire scene. When they are on board and you wish to train the children or have a STEM session with them, maybe on a Saturday afternoon, or maybe during the summer breaks, or maybe during other holidays that you have, or maybe coming while before school time, it works. It has been working for us. And at times we've been making space for STEM classes during the school timing, at times before and after the school timing also. So I think fitting it into the daily schedule of children is not an issue. That is not part of the problem. The trained faculty, bringing the parents on board in my school and in my zone, that is the major challenge.
All right. One last question that we want to ask from you, and that is that while we are doing capacity building and onboarding teachers, quickly, if you can tell us how do schools like yours find exact kits and tools needed for STEM education?
Again, thanks to RoboGenius again. When we started it initially, they had provided us with tools and kits for these programs. And we do not have too many kits, but because we juggle the time of the children, we are able to cover all the children with those few kits that we have. So I don't think that's a problem, because any faculty, when they get trained, and any company that handholds you into that, and now as Mr. Sudhanshu was just mentioning, that they have sponsors who can maybe build up the labs or maybe help you with that. And I'm sure they will come around with the government funding also. That should not be a problem.
Right. All right, then, to all our speakers and our attendees, on behalf of India STEM Foundation, I am extremely thankful for their presence, and I convey my vote of thanks to our keynote speakers, principals, industry and academia experts, our students who've come from diverse backgrounds, our principals and our keynote guests. Your words, reason, logic, and semantics help our students address challenges thrown at them in their STEM journey, in their journey of learning, STEM way of thinking. As the speakers have mentioned, we will work with our network partners to foster curiosity, ingenuity, and creativity by providing a variety of hands-on learning experience throughout the school year, and that are related to the 4 specific disciplines and even beyond, even humanities. Through the combined efforts as spoken, we will support students enhance key skills such as initiative taking, critical thinking, adaptation, collaboration, and we are very thankful to NCSM and Dr. Raj for participating in this event. We are also thankful for industry participation in this particular session of STEM Works for Schools. I take this moment to thank my team, Ghansham, Shruti, Shrey, Arjun, Kritika, Swati, Sariputra, Amit, and all others who have brought this program together and contributed and helped us put together a meaningful content for our viewers who are from across India. To extend STEM to a broader population of students, we will include other disciplines that our speakers have indicated through their talks. Thank you for helping us learn better about the subject. Till the next time we meet all of you, keep tinkering. Namaskar.